This week on the Changelog, Jared goes solo with Philip Heckel, creator of ntfy, spelled ntfy, to discuss this simple HTTP-based service that lets you send notifications to your phone or your desktop via scripts from any computer. They discuss why he built it, how he built it, and what his plans are for the future of this beloved side hustle. Big thank you to our friends at Fastly and our friends at Fly. This pod got to you fast because Fastly is super fast all over the world. Check them out at fastly.com. And our friends at Fly will help you put your app and your database closer to users all over the world with no ops. Check them out at fly.io. What's up, friends? I'm here with James Cowling, co-founder and CTO at Convex. They're one of our new sponsors, and they're building a full-stack platform for the TypeScript era. So, James, you have some awesome docs for Convex, and inside those docs is a document that sort of describes the entire world, the entire thinking, the framework of Convex. It's called the Zen of Convex. Can you describe that for me?
From my time building large-scale applications, I believe very strongly that there are a certain set of abstractions, primitives, and ways of solving problems that make life easy forever, and they compound in positive ways, and ways to solve problems that make life worse every day. And the things, everyone can recognize these things. What makes life easy is clean abstractions, information hiding, composability. What makes life hard is conditionals, checks everywhere, corner cases. Now, the Zen of Convex is about how to build applications in a way that scales for you. And in Convex specifically, one key component of that is influenced actually quite a lot by languages like Haskell. To think in terms of transactions, everything is a transaction. You don't have to think about functions interacting with each other because they're transactional. Think in terms of deterministic execution, so functions that are deterministic, so they can get replayed, they can get cached, and if any of the inputs to that function changes, we can push those functions in real time, the new results of those functions to you in real time over a WebSocket. So the Zen of Convex is about thinking about the kind of ways of building an application that are going to pay dividends to you in the long run. Now, you can use Convex and completely ignore the Zen if you want, right? You can use Convex just as a workhorse tool. We think the framework's designed in such a way that it encourages you to do things in the right way and in a way that will scale, in a way that will make life simple for you in the long run.
Okay, if you're looking for a better type of backend, Convex is the full stack TypeScript development platform you've been looking for. Replace your database, server functions, and glue code. Get started at convex.dev. That's convex.dev. Again, convex.dev.
We are here to talk about ntfy, spelled NTFY, living at ntfy.sh, an open source push notification service built on HTTP and PubSub. ntfy lets you send push notifications to your phone or desktop via scripts from any computer and or using its REST API. It's created by Philip C. Heckel. We'll call him Phil. And Phil is here with me. Hey, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very good. I've been excited for this conversation. I've been a ntfy user, casual user. I think I have a couple of things hanging out there. And I actually use it so infrequently that I'm excited when I get a push notification because it's a mixed bag, because usually when I get one, it means something went wrong, but I'm excited because everything's still working as planned and advertised. So I've been a user for a little while and excited to share this cool tool with our audience. Let's start with why you built this thing. It's been out there for a while. It's also open source, which is neat, but there are others. When I set out to find how to scratch this particular itch for myself, it's after a long time of using different things. I, for a long time, had like a special Gmail address that I would just email when things went wrong. And then from there, you could dispatch, right? Different things. I used to use the Twitter API back when it was awesome and just all you needed was a token. And you could then subscribe to like some robot feed and get DMs, or you could do all kinds of stuff with that. Various things throughout the years of like, hey, just send me a push notification to my phone without having like an Apple developer, subscription, all that kind of stuff. And so I asked our audience or our Slack community, I think it was, when I was looking for it over the summer. And there was a whole bunch of different services doing this one. I think the two that struck my eye was yours, as well as pushover.net. And Notify was cool because no account, just send it to an endpoint and it's a beautiful thing. So that was really cool. That's why I select Notify. I really like it. But I'm curious, when you set out to build this, what made you want to build one versus using something else that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, so this question gets asked a lot, and usually people start by saying, why didn't you just use this instead? And
right.
Just like you did. And the reason for me building it wasn't particularly I need to build this. It was more like I need to build something so it was multiple things. It was I was bored at work. Now I can say it. I don't work there anymore. But so I was bored at work. I love open source. So I've done a number of open source projects in the past. None that took off like this. And then, of course, there was a personal itch. There was the same thing that you did. I had a bunch of scripts, I had backup scripts, and I had, at the end of the script, there was a thing that was supposed to send me something. For a while, I send it with email and like the mail command, and that was a pain in the neck to configure. And then I finally settled on, I think it was called send XMPP or XMPP send. I forgot which way around, which is XMPP is this chat protocol.
Jabber.
Jabber, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so Google was supporting Jabber and XMPP with Google Hangouts for a long time. So I made a Google account and, I called it Heinz Ketchup just to make it funny. And then I got messages from Heinz Ketchup every now and then to say your backup is done and whatnot. And then eventually Google killed XMPP and Hangouts. So you can sort of say the fact that Notify is here is because Google killed the product again.
You say that about lots of stuff.
I know, right? But so that's when I started dabbling, and I kind of always liked the idea of just using curl, just do things with curl. I don't want to install anything. I don't want to, apt-get this and have to whatever. I want to just use an API with curl. And so Notify is built around the idea of simple, right? So it's a 60 character curl command to send a push notification to your phone. That's pretty insane if you ask me. So the combination of bored at work, loving open source, and my own thing broke, I started working on it. And just as I said before, the fact that I wanted to just make something, I didn't go looking for something else, which was a really good thing in the beginning, just to make what you want to make without looking at competition. Because I didn't even know Gotify or Pushover or I don't know, the other competitors, Quoty Fingers competitors existed because I didn't research. I just made the thing that I wanted to make. And when I then released it, then of course people said, how does this compare to, and so on. So yeah, that's how it came to be, and that's when I started looking at the others, and of course I copied the features. Oh, they've got that. That's a great idea. So I have some of the features, but I do have lots of features that the others don't, and yeah, so that's how it came to be.
Gotcha. It's interesting. You were looking for something to build, which made you not look around. I'm usually the exact opposite. The last thing I want to do is build something, and so of course I look around and I say, has anybody done this? Usually nobody has done it the exact way that I would want it to be done, and so I settle for something. But honestly, Phil, when I first used this, I'm like, this is what I would have built. I'm the same way, especially weird places, inside of a cron job or something, where you can just curl an endpoint and get a notification, no extra tooling, no nothing, no sign up, no account. It's just beautiful. And so I guess I'm glad you didn't look around, but I looked around and I found Notify. Otherwise, maybe I would have built the exact same thing, at least at first glance. And so I'm glad that you built it and I can just use it. That's pretty cool. How did you have this insight of, I guess you just like curl so much? That was the answer.
I do like simple things. So I'm a software engineer at heart, and like my day job is software engineering too. But user experience is ridiculously important, and we as developers and sysadmins and whatnot, we are users. So you don't want to make a config file with an API key in it, or you want to just send the message already. And that's how it came to be what it is.
Okay. So talk about what it is. Fill everybody in.
Yeah. I mean, you gave a good intro. Notify is a push notification system. I think that the website calls it a pub sub system, which I might change because people don't know what pub sub is and they don't care. Because first and foremost, it is meant to send push notifications to your phone from wherever you want, right? So the API is HTTP based, so you can just send the actual message in the body of the HTTP request, and everything speaks HTTP. So you can send yourself whatever message you want. The way to use it is you go to the website or you go to Google Play or the App Store and you download the app. Then you subscribe to a topic. So this is where the pub sub comes in. You subscribe to a topic. A topic can be any word you can think of. And then you can push messages to this topic. And everybody who subscribes to the topic will receive it. So that means you can have multiple subscribers to one topic. So if you're a group of people, they can all listen to the same topic. They will all get the same message. Or if you want to have a private topic, you can either pick something really complicated, similar to a password, or reserve a topic. If you have a private instance, and since open source, you can host your own private instance, or you can purchase a plan for the Notify Pro plan and reserve topics that way. And and then the message itself can be just everybody's seen a push notification, so they know what they look like. But there's tons of stuff that you can do with it. You can give it a title. You can, they have different priorities, so you can different ringtones. You can the override do not disturb. You can make it so that it persistently rings until you tap it. You can add, emojis and tags that I've added as a classification method, and so on. Yeah, I mean, I could list all the features. Do you want me to list all the features? I suppose I could.
That's a good intro to it.
Yeah.
So the thing that makes it dead simple is this topic subscription feature, where as long as your notification data, that payload that you're sending isn't so top secret that it has to be super, super secured with an account and a username and a password and typical authentication schemes, you can simply pick an obscure topic name that only you know, or only people that you distribute that information to know. And you can subscribe to that, which is effectively public, but it's obscure. So if you're dealing with the crown jewels, perhaps, maybe not, maybe it's up to you. But if you're not, like me, I'm basically notifying myself when a certain thing is down, or when a backup finishes, or these one-off ad hoc things that developers want to know about. Heck, I could even publish my topic to people. I don't really care if they spy on the fact that my backup succeeded, correct?
Yeah, so I've had this conversation so many times, so I'm glad it's coming up again. You touched on the fact that the topic is public, right? And the topic is public in the same sense that a URL that is public. So when you share a link on Google Photos or Apple iCloud or whatever, that's a private link, the same way that this can be a private link. So if you pick a really complicated password or a really complicated topic, it's the same level of security that a private link for Google Photos has. Now, if you pick Jared's topic, that's the equivalent of a bad password. People would be able to guess that.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm assuming that's out there somewhere.
Yeah, in that sense. So when you look at competitors and like the way that they've done it with the API keys and so on, when you look at the raw HTTP request, it is very similar what you're sending, right? In the Notify case, the topic is in is in the path, and in the pushover case, the topic is in a header. There is differences, obviously, but yes, it's not the Fort Knox tool, but that's the trade-off, that you get this simplicity by using this approach over API keys, right? But if you want to, you can self-host. If you are Fort Knox, or you have your own, you don't want to share that your backup is finished, or you have more sensitive stuff that you distribute or that you notify yourself on, then yeah, you can self-host, and you can. There's no phone home feature or anything. It's completely open source. You can have accounts. You can have proper access control. There's access control lists. You can go all the way in, or you can just send a message. It puts a little bit more control in the user's hands, which I realize these days is controversial. Everything is secure by default to a crazy extent. And for me, we are developers. So this is a developer and sysadmin tool. So we're not your average user, your grandpa and grandma. It's not made for that. So I've had my mom install it, and she's like, all right, now what? Because I can't send a message back. I sent her a message, and she's like, how do I respond? And I'm like, that's not what it's for. That's not what it's for. But so people have asked for that, published messages from the app so many times. So I'm adding it, but it's not what it's for. But again, that's the beauty of it. It doesn't matter. Like, if you want to use it that way, then you can use it that way.
Yeah. It's a hacker's tool. I mean, that's what I love about it. Like, if I don't care and I just want to send to an endpoint, and whatever happens, fine. Maybe I'll just go test 1, 2, 3, 4 and just send the data,
Yeah.
But if I want to be Fort Knox and self-host and tie it into my SSO and blah, 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 I'm sure those are all things that a hacker can do with an open source hacker tool that's self-hostable. So that's spectacular, because it starts with the user experience and really easy to get a win. I mean, this is something I talk about a lot, is give people wins as soon as you can with whatever it is that you're building, and they're going to come back for more. They'll even sign up for your account if you've given them enough wins that it's a reasonable trade-off. I'm not against having an account on a system. I'm against you requiring me to have an account before I've actually even used the thing and seen if I liked it. So I think that you're making the right trade-offs. I'm sure there's people who would prefer the other trade-off, and that's why there's a nice diversity of options out there, right?
I do like the no account thing was really important to me, because it's the user experience and the way you get to interact with it are so different. You get to try it out without, having to do anything. I rarely sign up for things anymore, because I'm like, that's a hassle to email, and then I have to generate a purpose-built email address so that I can, not get spam forever and so on. So I like having the no account thing.
So one thing that can happen when you don't require accounts is people just spam your endpoints, I would assume. So a lot of us are casual users, just hitting it every once in a while, but I would think that abuse might be a concern. Has that been a problem?
So has it been happening? Yes. Has it been a problem? No. So I've done this long enough to know that once you put something on the internet, you're going to get spammed. You're going to get spammed. Once it hits popularity, you're going to get abused and spammed. And so I've done this before at work. I've done this before for other services. So I have a service called nopaste.net, which is, I don't know if you remember from the olden days of IRC, where you wouldn't put large text in the chat. So pastebin, it's called these days, right? So it's a pastebin service, which is similarly to Notify, you can use from curl. So you can pipe a file into curl and so on. That one didn't hit, a spot like Notify did, but it taught me some lessons in terms of what to do and how to rate limit. So Notify has a ridiculous amount of rate limiting and logic around usage limits, logic around the constant abusers being banned, and so on. So there's a page in the docs around rate limiting if you want to know more, but ultimately it's a token bucket based rate limiter, and there's a rate limiter in Nginx, which combined with fail to ban will ultimately ban people if they are real abusers. But the application itself, every endpoint and everything has different rate limits. So the number of emails you can send, the number of messages you can send, the number of attachments, the amount of attachments, how big the attachments are, and so on. So that doesn't mean that there isn't holes. So if you go and audit the software, you might find something. But I have been pretty happy with the way it's going. The service runs on one machine so far, which it's like 20 something thousand active connections, and like thousands and millions of messages a day. Many of them are rejected. So like many of them don't even, hit notify because people are banned. Sometimes it's, just bad folks, but mostly it's bad scripts. It's really just I forgot that this is still running
in a loop.
And then, you'll eventually in a loop, and it happens. It happens. Or like somebody put like, every stack trace in a notify message, and then like their application starts failing more, and suddenly you're like doing 10,000 stack traces a day over notify. So yeah, that's what it is. But I've not hit like any scary limits because people are cut off really early.
What's up, friends? We're working closely with .tech Domains to feature startups that are participating in their Startups.tech program right here on the changelog. I've never seen something like this from one of our advertisers, but it does make sense to me to show off not only what .tech Domains offer, but also who is building on .tech Domains. And I'm here with Bastian, co-founder of eyewear. You can find them at eyewear.tech. EYEWARE.tech, where they build AI-powered webcam eye tracking software used by AMD, Microsoft, and even Intel. Bastian, give me the backstory. What does eyewear do?
We're a deep tech spin-off, computer vision and AI spin-off from a Swiss research lab. We turn your webcam or 3D sensor into an eye tracker, so you don't have to buy expensive hardware to get reliable and robust eye tracking performance on your PC. So we have two main products. One is the GazeSense SDK, which is an eye tracking SDK that companies like AMD have used in collaboration with us to build, for example, the AMD Privacy View app that is now part of the Radeon software driver suite. There you can use eye tracking for certain features like Privacy View. It blurs out parts of the screen that you're not looking at. We also took that app and built our own solution called eyewear Beam that is targeting gamers, where you can turn your webcam into a gaming eye tracker for more immersive gameplay in, for example, simulator games, over 200 of them through the OpenTrack extension. Or you can use it for streaming or game recording to improve your own gameplay by rewatching your recordings with that overlay and seeing when you missed something during essential sections of your gameplay, or just share it with your audience and engage better with them.
Well, this is definitely the next frontier. Are you only licensing focused, or do you have any offerings that's ready for developers to consume and leverage in their projects?
So with eyewear Beam, we are facing consumers directly with this app. You can download it. There's a free trial on our website and on Steam, so you can give it a go and see how you like it. The idea is still that we provide licensing solutions to big players, to OEMs, and allow them to integrate eye tracking. I think there's going to be a world where you're going to have headsets. They're for sure going to come. I'm going to be one of the users, and eye tracking is an essential part of it. But then you'll have a lot of just interfaces, surfaces, screens where you will want to interact with them without a headset on, and their eye tracking will also matter. So there's, for example, these 3D screens, 3D stereoscopic displays where you would need eye tracking and similar situations. So like it's going to be a hybrid setup, and I think our technology is an essential part of that.
Talk to me about the choice of using a .tech domain.
I think it was a logical decision to make from I think every startup will first take their name and then add a .com behind it and try that out. And then it's probably going to be too expensive or taken already. And then look for alternatives. We are a deep tech company that has already part of it in the name. So if we put eyewear.tech, it makes it clear for third parties, specifically for these potential clients that we want to license to, that we are a tech provider. We're a deep tech company. We're a spin-off. And I think that represents it pretty well.
Okay, make sure you check out eyewear.tech. That's EYEWARE.tech. And of course, go to startups.tech/changelog if you want to have your startup that's building on a .tech domain featured on a show like this. Don't wait. Go to startups.tech/changelog. Again, startups.tech/changelog.
Do you have limits on the App Store sides, like with Apple and or Android, like how many push notifications you could actually send? Because you are basically funneling, I guess. Like is it one App Store credential that's sending for everybody?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You're hitting on the how does it work under the hood, the message delivery, which maybe is a good small segue. So Notify SH does use Firebase or Firebase messaging, what is it called? FCM, Firebase Cloud Messaging, to deliver messages through Google. And then for Apple, for iOS devices, Firebase itself will forward to APNS, which is Apple's Apple Push Notification Service, which in turn will then deliver that to iPhones. There is other ways to deliver messages. So for self-hosted instances, they don't go through Google. They go through regular WebSockets or HTTP stream. So there's no limits there. Interestingly, Google doesn't have limits on FCM. I'm literally pushing thousands and it's not millions of messages a day, but it's a lot of messages. Every day, it costs nothing. And I am scared that at one point they'll say, yeah, that's enough. But there's no published limits. There's no, I have not experienced any rate limits. I've not experienced any disruptions in delivery because of FCM, because of Firebase. I will say this, the Firebase mechanism to deliver messages is much slower than the WebSocket, which is why it's called, when you select, there's a checkbox called instant delivery. That's basically, just do it over WebSocket and not over Firebase.
So WebSocket goes to where? What's the other side of the endpoint? Yeah,
so the other side of the endpoint is Notify SH or your self-hosted server. So basically when you open your app, it's constantly connected to the Notify SH server. So when you push your message to Notify SH, it directly finds the correct WebSocket and pushes it through there.
What about apps that haven't been launched for a while?
It's running in the background. It doesn't. Gotcha. So people, the first question when they hear that is, what about battery? So it does consume more battery than Firebase. On my phone, it's about 0.5% a day. On other people's phones, it has been more significant. It depends on the number of messages. It depends on how you travel. So or how often you hop different mobile networks and so on. But usually it's, 1 to 2% max. There is some phone manufacturers that are notoriously bad. And there's sometimes apps get killed in the background so that it doesn't work well. But let's say that 98% or so of users are perfectly happy, don't complain about battery anymore. I had battery issues in the beginning, but now it's been solid for a long time.
Is this your first foray into native mobile app development? Because I assume you got 2 apps out there, right? Yeah,
I have the Android app and the iOS app. It was my first Android app. I learned Kotlin, which the language is beautiful. I didn't have to learn it. I felt like I knew it. It was like an old friend that you had never met.
What languages were you familiar with coming into it that made you feel that way?
I mean, I've done Java in the past. It's Java-esque, right? It runs on the JDK. But I've done Java in the past, but I'm a Go fan. So the Notify server is written in Go. Yeah, so the Android side of things, it was odd, but it was okay. It felt like it's going quickly, relatively quickly. There's a lot of Googling involved in Android development. I feel like when I write Go, I don't have to Google how basic things work. In Android development, it's weird. It's just really strange. For the iOS app, I don't have a Mac and I don't have an iPhone. So
it makes it harder.
So I got an iPhone and a Mac.
There you go.
Yeah, so I bought a used MacBook and I borrowed an iPhone and I made the app. And I'm not happy with the iOS app. It's so terrible compared to the Android app. It has like 10% of the features. People complain all the time. I think the Android app is really solid. People mostly ask for new features. So I think one of the last shows, the Towery guy, what was his name? David, I think? Daniel, close. Sorry, Daniel. He talked about the issue bubble. And I think in the Android world, we are like past the issue bubble. There's mostly features. Yes, people have issues, but mostly it's about features. And in iOS land, where like I haven't touched the iOS app in a long, long time, and I just need to get back to it. It's just Swift and that universe is just very not my realm.
Yeah.
I would love to have some help. So if somebody out there is listening and like wants to.
And the apps are both open as well?
Everything's open. Everything's open source. The iOS app is a little tricky to debug because you need a physical device and so on. But it's everything's open source. Yeah.
Well, like I said, casual user, and mostly just install the app in order to subscribe to the ones that I am interested in, and then don't ever launch it unless I get a push notification from Notify. So not heavy enough user to have feature requests or have, I remember thinking, oh, this is bare bones is what I thought. Like this is like utilitarian, the app compared to other apps. Like it just has what I need in order to get subscribed.
Are you on Android or iOS?
On iOS.
Oh, on iOS. Okay, I'm sorry you're getting such a terrible experience then.
No, like I said, it's not terrible for me because I don't launch it unless I get a push notification.
But you don't know what you're missing.
I don't. Well, that's why it's not so bad. You know, I don't even know what I'm missing.
You don't even have attachments. You can send files and you have action buttons and
I don't have any of that.
And
I don't.
Oh man, you should get an Android device.
I've never owned an Android device in the course of my life.
Let's not have that discussion.
Yeah. I'm not against it. I just don't have one. Okay, so you need help on the iOS side. That's interesting. That leads me to think about money. I don't know if that makes you think about money, but I started thinking about money when I started thinking about I need help programming something. What's the money situation? So obviously there's a pro plan. You got GitHub sponsors going on, and I saw there's a decent amount, over 30. It seems like there's some people backing the project, but do you have, like, could you bring on somebody to work on the iOS, or you're not quite there yet? Where are you at financially?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I started the project, it's an open source side project. So that's what I started it as, right? I had open source projects in the past, as I've said. One of them called Synchrony, which is, think of like a Dropbox clone, but secure. The website's still up, but it is pretty much defunct and abandoned. And that gained a little bit of popularity back then. And people started donating, and they started donating and donating. And the problem with Synchrony, with that other project, was it was never really functional and finished. So I felt really bad for receiving so much money. And I mean, it wasn't much. It was a couple thousand, bucks. But like for, at the time, I'm like, I have just this open source project. I didn't really expect anything. It felt like bad money to me. So for the longest time for Notify, I didn't accept money. I didn't accept donations, and I didn't have paid plans. And it even said in the docs, I don't want any money. I don't want any donations. And then it gained, traction, and suddenly it costs more money to run the server and and the Apple license, the developer license and all that. It kind of added up, and then I bought a Mac and and so on. So I just figured, all right, I guess I could start asking for donations, and I did. And then beginning of this year, so I think it was March, I rolled out the paid plans as well. And it's not like I've been making bank with it, but it is still like in very much side project territory. I can give out, contributor. I can give out like a couple hundred to contributors, which I do, but it's not like I can quit my day job because of it. Sadly, because I like Notify, I like the concept. On the other hand, I do like that it's entirely open, and that I don't depend financially on it. Because when you start depending on something financially, your perspective changes a lot. And so maybe your usage limits are not as generous as the free usage limits that I have. Maybe you do require a sign up. Maybe you start talking about leads, and you start talking and you require, I've done this dance. I've done this dance. Like your perspective on things starts changing, and it is very difficult to be a successful open source company. I mean, you've had a number of them on the podcast, right?
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy. And then eventually you're going to have to take on money, like VCs and whatnot. Am I ready to do that right now? No. In the future, maybe. So Notify makes a little bit of money. I'm not swimming in money, and that's okay.
Fair enough. I think it's at a scale right now where in your FAQ, you get to say, what are the uptime guarantees? You get to say best effort.
That's what it says. So I've actually stolen this from, do you know HealthChecks.io?
No.
It's a website that's based around the idea of a dead man switch, where you send a message to HealthChecks.io every, 2 minutes, or every whatever interval you choose.
Right. And then you stop.
And then when you stop, it notifies you. It actually has Notify integration now. It's great.
Seems like the opposite of Notify.
It is and it isn't. So there's a very small change that I have to make, and suddenly I can do that too. But that's beside the point. My model is based on, I forgot his name, but whoever the maintainer of that is. Because I said to myself, I want to be fully open source. I want to be transparent. And I want to be a good citizen just like him. And he writes in his FAQs, or in the terms and conditions, he writes, I'm just one guy. And so if my Postgres server is down, I have backups, but it could be a couple hours. Or if I'm asleep, then it could be more. So I do have a ridiculously good uptime so far. I haven't really been down at all. There was one window where I was asleep and people kept pinging me, and I didn't have my Ops Genie. Yeah, so I didn't notify myself about Notify being down. So there's an interesting use case.
Oh, you need another service. That's how you sign up for pushover.
No, I don't. So you know what I do now?
You run like a dev box and staging or something.
No, there's public Notify servers that other people run. So if you look in the docs, there's a integrations and projects page at the bottom.
So
there's
you're using
a list.
somebody else's Notify. Just pick a private topic and boom.
I do.
That's cool.
And so, it rings continue. I didn't have it. So I did that after that.
What's your infrastructure look like?
It's again, and
you said one machine, didn't you?
It's one box. It's one droplet on DigitalOcean. I have, given that it's running Go, and Go is really good at concurrency, I don't need more. I can scale much more than this. The reliability aspect of it is questionable, obviously.
Yeah. Wouldn't take too much to go to 2, right?
It's so there's
at this point you might be on, if DigitalOcean has a problem, that's when you have a problem, kind of a thing, where it's if you could just have 2 of everything, why not? It probably would take a few hours to get set up, and then you would just have that one. I mean, you go from 5 nines to 9 nines or something, just having 2 of them.
I would have to make changes in the app because right now it's backed by SQLite. SQLite is a file. So if I back it by Postgres, or even an RQLite or something like a somewhat distributed database, then it would be relatively easy to go to 5 nines, 7 nines, or whatever. But right now, again, I'm still in the growth phase. I haven't experienced any issues, but I do. It is around the corner. I want to do just for my own sanity. I don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night, believe it or not. My kids do that enough. I don't need
Right.
software to do that too.
Well, how big is that SQLite database? Just curious.
It is. So notify messages get pruned after 12 hours.
Okay. So it stays at a constant size, roughly.
So it roughly stays at a constant size. Right now it's 320,000. So that gives you a number of how many messages a day it is. It's like 600,000 messages a day, or almost 700 a day. But yeah, it gets pruned. Obviously, if you have pro plans, your messages get cached longer and so on. But for the most part, it's 12 hours.
You might look into Lightstream and some of the stuff that the Fly team is doing around SQLite and allowing it to be.
I have.
You have.
I have looked at a lot of things.
You're excited by that, or you're not going to do that? You'd rather switch to the back end?
No, I have explored so many different things, and there's 8 million things to do, and I just, I have to pick, like the beauty of this being just me plus the contributors is that I can do fun-driven development. I've called it that, and like I do the things that are fun for me, and sometimes that means I dabble with the Android app. Almost never means I dabble with the iOS app. And sometimes it means I do investigate the reliability aspect, but it takes a lot of time. That stuff takes a lot of time and fine tuning. So I haven't acted on it. There's many options.
What's up, friends? There's so much going on in the data and machine learning space. It's just hard to keep up. Did you know that graph technology lets you connect the dots across your data and ground your LLM in actual knowledge? To learn about this new approach, don't miss Nodes on October 26th. At this free online conference, developers and data scientists from around the world will share how they use graph technology for everything from building intelligent apps and APIs to enhancing machine learning and improving data visualizations. There are 90 inspiring talks over 24 hours, so no matter where you're at in the world, you can attend live sessions. To register for this free conference, visit neo4j.com/nodes. That's NEO, the number 4j.com/nodes.
One thing about Notify is when I asked folks for a solution, I had a handful all say Notify. And I wonder how you got the word out, how you established, this tool, because there's just so much noise these days and so many cool things and many competing services, even on this one particular thing. Did you do any, I know you're not thinking in leads and stuff, but did you do any grassroots, like get the word out kind of stuff, or did you just put it out there and let fate take it?
I don't think that works. No, I don't think.
Dang it! That's been my entire plan.
No, you can't do that anymore. There's, as you said, there's too much stuff. So you do have to do marketing or advertising, and not in the traditional sense, right? It's open source, so you can say, "Look, I've got this cool tool." So for the most part, what I did was Reddit. There's a fantastic subreddit called Self-Hosted, which they're really receptive, really fantastically nice people, and very much the target audience of like people that like to dabble with new and open source stuff. They don't really like hosted things. So I could always say, look, you can try it out here and then you install it yourself. So I did a number of posts there. The community has really, really been nice to me, have suggested features and so on. They've integrated it into things and so on. So let's say 90% was spent trying to, here's a new feature with that community. I did a show Hacker News post that took off, or somebody else posted it and that took off. So that was nice. And then very recently, it got picked up by Network Chuck on YouTube. And he has like 3 million subscribers still. So that doubled the number of users. That was pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, I've tried to make like it as simple as possible and make the docs the best docs that you could ever imagine. So the documentation is really like, it has a lot of screenshots and videos and so on. And I think the easier it is for people to get started, the more hooked you get, right? When you look at others, you understand what it is, but like sometimes it's like, oh, how do I do this? Or it's tricky to get started. And I think Notify doesn't have that problem. The other thing that I did was in the very beginning, there's a standard called Unified Push, where it's a set of specifications is what they call it. It's not really an official standard, but it's a project that lets users choose how push notifications are delivered to their devices. So it's meant to be a competitor to Google's FCM, Firebase, in an open source way. So instead of talking to Google servers, you can pick the provider that delivers your messages. And as Notify, I worked with the Unified Push team to integrate Notify as a distributor. So a lot of the traffic on Notify SH isn't people sending messages to themselves. It's your Matrix client, your Element, and your various apps that support Unified Push that just deliver messages from their app server to their Android app and use Notify as a sort of delivery person. So Notify is just a vessel to deliver the message to the local app. That sort of made people aware, because they installed like Unified Push on their website says, if you want to just get it going, use Notify.
I see. So they find it because they install the app, they get the Notify app, and now they're aware of the service.
Correct.
Are there people building their own apps, like really want, or is that just like, why just use the Notify app? I imagine if somebody wanted to white label it, or is there any reason to just bypass the Notify app and build your own sub on the pub sub?
There's people trying to build on top of Notify, which I think historically has been tricky because they expect it to be white labelable.
Yeah.
And to sort of expect it to be what FCM is. So I think most people that try to build their app on top of Notify really want Firebase and don't know that Firebase exists. So a lot of people have reached out to me and want to contract me to help them integrate Notify into things. And every now and then I like do help people, but most of the time I say, what you really want is I'd love to, for you to give me money to help you work on your app, but what you really want is this. And it's mostly Firebase that they want. They want to deliver their custom push notifications to their custom app, then that's not what it's for. It can work that way, but really what you want is this.
That could be your moneymaker, though, as long as FCM stays no limit at the zero prices. You could offer that for people to build their own apps on top of Notify.
I could. Again, fun-driven development.
Right, not fun.
I don't know. I'd rather do the features that people want. Right? People wanted Markdown, and I was like, I don't really like to style too fancy styles and whatnot. I want it to be clean and look nice. But people wanted Markdown, so I added Markdown. People want end-to-end encryption, so they want to be able to send private messages, and I'm like, yeah, that should really be up there. So I'll work on that next, probably, and so on. So
what's on your fun list, though? Like, what would you work on if it was just you using it? I mean, assuming that you'd still be working on it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't prepare that question. So
I finally found one.
You found one. No,
I'm ready for this.
What would I do? I think so. What I really wanted for a long time is to be able to update messages, and that's not just me wanting it, right? But the ability to send a message, and then send a second message to update the first one. So like think of like you're downloading a large file and you have a little progress bar in your phone that just shows, I don't know, or you're downloading a movie, or you're, there's 1,000 use cases for that. I just find the idea of having a progress bar on my phone for something that is somewhere else is kind of cool. I've tried implementing that, and the way I implement it in the server, it makes it just tricky. It's not hard to do. It's just the way I initially designed the software makes it hard to refactor. But that's a feature that I always wanted.
Progress bar on your phone for something that's progressing elsewhere.
I know it's weird, but why not? Like
I've never wanted that before.
So I mean, there's so many things that you didn't know you wanted, right?
True. I mean, I don't even know I want the Android app at this point. So
exactly,
you're telling me stuff that I didn't know I wanted. So
maybe I'll build a browser.
Hey, there's a nice curveball. I want a browser, but there's a lot of people tackling that at this point, it seems like. Okay, I guess that would definitely be a scratch your own itch kind of a feature. Obviously, other people think it's cool as well. Have you ever considered just hanging it up?
You mean just
being done?
Not working on it? Being done?
Yeah, hanging them up, putting your sign up. Finished.
No.
How long have you been working on it?
Not very long. I feel like it's not even 2 years.
Okay.
I do consider the Android app to be relatively complete, because it is the idea is very Unixy, right? It's a tool. It does one thing and it does it really well, I think. And there's only so much you can add to notifications, right? So what else could you possibly do? There's
progress
of course
bars.
There's 1,000 things. I mean, if you progress bars. No, I mean, if you look at the GitHub issues and sort them by, thumbs up, there's a lot of things that people want.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do all of them. I'm not going to do most of them, but a lot of people have great ideas of what could be added. And to keep a tool, small and not complicated, like simple, you just have to stop at some point. And that's tricky if you like working on it. It's tricky to just stop. And hanging it up, definitely not, because that would imply that I let people down, and I don't want to let people down.
It's self-hostable, Phil. You can't let anybody down.
Yeah, but you have to update software. You know that.
That's true. Truly valuable tools that are open source will be picked up by somebody else. But I agree that you don't want to let anybody down. So top voted features right now, end-to-end encryption. You already talked about that one. Update/delete notifications. I believe that's your progress bar one right there. And then publish messages in the app, which you already talked about. So you're on top of it. These are things that people want synchronized between devices.
Yeah. That's it's a little odd. Notify was built, but the same goes for the web app. It's a web app that only runs in the browser and stores state in the browser. There's no account because there's no account.
So it's just an API client.
Because Notify started without accounts. Accounts were added later.
Yeah.
The web app has to work in a way that it doesn't have accounts. So when you subscribe to a topic, it's stored in the local browser, local storage, the same way an Android app stores it just locally there, because you don't have an account to link it to. Now that I have accounts, the web app syncs with that account. The Android app doesn't. So that feature is half done, but it's weird that you can log into an account from the Android app. It doesn't sync down the subscribed topics, it doesn't behave like a WhatsApp would, right? When you read a message, that it's read everywhere. It's basically every client is independent. So that's what that means.
Cool, man. Anything I didn't ask you that you had on your list of answers, you're gonna hit me with it.
My list of answers, you make me sound like I'm overly prepared.
No.
No,
you're just well prepared, not overly prepared. You're just well prepared, which I appreciate, and I'm sure our listener appreciates.
I am German, so that's probably why.
Yeah, I love anybody who's prepared for anything. So I appreciate you having some thoughts prepared. Anything that you expected me to ask that I haven't asked, or that we haven't talked about, any aspects of the project, anything that you think our listener would still want to hear about before we let them go?
No, I mean, I just want to say thank you to all the Notify users and people who have contributed code and ideas and help other people in the Discord and the Matrix chat. And it's just fantastic to see like a tiny little project grow. And it's humbling to see yourself in like podcasts. It's weird to me. And I appreciate the opportunity. I just thank you very much for letting me be here and be a guest.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, I'm a user, I'm a fan, and I love that it's open source. Pretty much the spirit of what you're doing is like combining with the spirit of things that I like. So that's why you're here. And I think our listeners are going to also, if they don't know about it, I think they're going to enjoy checking it out, setting it up for themselves, perhaps self-hosting, or just curling the endpoint when their backups finish and see that cool non-markdown, non-attachment version on their iOS apps until somebody hops in there and helps fill out with this iOS app. I'm missing features, y'all. I didn't know this. I'm missing features.
Please do help. Please do help me out.
All right. Thanks, Phil. This has been lots of fun.
Thank you.
So Jared and I are fresh off the Still Horse, back to home, coming from All Things Open. I want to say, wow, seeing everybody, and more importantly, seeing everybody who listens to this podcast basically every day. It's kind of crazy, honestly. But it was good seeing you all. Thank you so much for saying hello. And sometimes we just get so busy at our booth that we just can't say hello to everybody. So if you're a listener and we weren't able to say hello or at length, please, next time you see us, come and say hi. We want to say hello to everybody. Sometimes we can't, and we're so sorry for that. But it was so awesome seeing those who we were able to see. And that's what it's all about, really. That's what it's all about. And up next, we have our good friend, Kevin Ball, also known as K-Ball, panelist on JS Party and friend, joining us on Changelog and Friends. So that is on Friday. And next week, I mentioned All Things Open. So next week is our first episode of coverage from All Things Open. I hope you enjoy it. And if you're a Plus Plus subscriber, stick around on this episode. We have a bonus for you. If you are not a Plus Plus subscriber, there is an easy remedy. Go to changelog.com/plus+. It's better. That's right. It is better. It's better every single time you listen to it. And it's even better when you subscribe. $10 a month, $100 a year. Drop the ads. Get directly on that medal, that cool changelog medal. And of course, get bonus content like today. Once again, changelog.com/plus+. Of course, big thanks to our friends and partners at Fastly, Fly, and TypeSense. And also to the Beatsmaster in residence, Break Master Cylinder. Those beats, so good. Just so good. Well, that's it. This show is done. We will see you on the next one.